Hi, this is the Acquire podcast from the Oddphonic Podcast Network, and I am Jenny Wright. This is the podcast that delves deep into the world of list building and online events, and it's designed to empower entrepreneurs and marketers with the knowledge and strategies to master these essential business growth tactics. We have a really great guest today, and before I introduce her, Karrington, please say hi.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Jenny.
Of course. Karrington Warfield is here with us today. It's going to be a really good conversation. You are not only an event strategy coach, but you're also a seasoned author and a speaker and a mastermind behind some really memorable events that seem to resonate really well with your audience. So we are in the same space, and I love this. We're going to have a really good conversation about online events and what it all means. And your expertise stems from a very rich background in corporate event planning, orchestrating a diverse range of high-profile events from executive level, leadership retreats to sales launches and beyond, which is great. And you are a certified meeting and event strategist, but you don't always just focus on the efficiency of the events, but you prioritize effectiveness and a flawless execution. So Karrington's mission is to empower coaches and entrepreneurs and planners to not just plan events, but create an immersive experience that leaves lasting impacts. So I love that we share a common background. I used to do corporate event planning too. I used to do AGMs, and I did a lot of charity golf tournaments back in the day.
Nice.
Yeah, super intense, but really, really fun. So we have this common background. And when we were talking about building this episode together, one of the things that I said is I wanted to create community and collaboration over competition. And instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, Karrington is just like me and builds online events and in-person events," I couldn't put my quote unquote competition on this podcast. I'd rather have the conversation and find out what's good, what you do, what you love, what makes events different, and maybe how we can improve this space in this new year. Because at the time we're recording it, we're almost at the end of 2023. This is coming out in 2024, but there's a lot that we can look at doing. So let's talk about online events and the evolution of event strategy. With your experience in these different events, first of all, talk about the events that you love to plan, and then tell me a little bit about the change in strategy that you've kind of seen happening.
So I would say I love to do conferences, and reason being is because I like the fact that there's different pieces to it, right? You could have your keynote speaker, you have sometimes your breakout sessions, your networking sessions. I like to switch it up a little bit, right? I feel like sometimes I get a little bit bored. I've been to events before in the past where it's just been someone talking to you all day. And it's great. And not that it wasn't a bunch of value, but I start to get a little bored, right? I start getting on my phone. I start getting antsy. And so I love conferences because it gives you an opportunity to do different things and break things up for the audience as well. Because if you get bored, your audience could tend to get bored as well, right? And I'm sorry, could you repeat the question about the strategy piece? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just thinking about the strategy of how events have changed. So pre-pandemic, people were going to all sorts of events. There's a conference season where everybody's going to conferences, and then during in the summer, and then during winter, that switches to places like Florida, and then places that stay warm. So there's lots of places to go. But what do you see changing, right? So you're talking about creating immersive events. How have these events changed post-pandemic? And what immersive experiences are keeping you and the event goers from being bored?
I think they've changed. I'll say this. I think a lot of them have stayed the same, but I think that now that we're getting back to the in-person events, that we're having to create experiences a little bit more, think a little bit more out of the box with experiences. I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago, and they were asking, what are some things that you can do? I'm seeing things where people are using drones and robots and all kinds of stuff, depending on the event, right? Again, it goes back to your budget, right? If you've got this super grandiose budget, you can do things of that nature. But I think that some of them are the same, but some of them are now where we've got to get people used to coming back, right? And then now with it being flu season, people are a little bit weird about COVID. I'm starting to see people wearing masks and things of that nature again. I think that you have to create an experience for people. And that's where I see the difference. So it's not that people weren't before, but I think now you've got to think a lot more out of the box, right? What can I do different that I didn't do before? Or sometimes even when you've been to another event, you get ideas like, oh my gosh, this is a great idea. And it's not stealing anything, right? You want to take those things and make it your own, right? So I don't think that it's anything wrong with you using some of the ideas that you've seen somewhere else, just kind of putting your own spin on it. But we've got to think about the experience now, is what I'm seeing is a lot different.
Absolutely. And I'm also seeing with in-person events that there is a hybrid of in-person and online.
Absolutely.
So I just started up with a client who runs an in-person conference every year in Connecticut. And it's like something that people look forward to every single year. It grows every single year. He's known really, really well in the space, and he's adding an online portion to it. So obviously, like during COVID, this whole conference cut down, like it was, strictly closed and everything. And then he went online for a bit. Now he's back to in-person. And he's adding a hybrid. So hybrid events, I think, are really cool. Like, do you see like a rise in the amount of hybrids that are happening?
I do. I went to a conference last summer. It was huge. It was 2 days long, literally all day from like 8 to 5. Actually, it went to 6 one day. But it was hybrid. And so they had a bunch of people online. What I think is great about that is that sometimes people just don't have the budget, right? They've paid the registration, but they don't have the budget to fly or to rent a car or to stay at a hotel, depending on the type of season or what season it is. It might be peak season where things are a lot more expensive. And so I love the hybrid because people have the opportunity to come, right, to register for the event, but still save money, but still get the same value. And then those that can come and have the budget to be able to pay for the hotel and the car rental and the flights and things of that nature, they still get that same experience. So I love that. I think hybrid is amazing. And I've seen a much more people or an increase in that hybrid space since COVID. So I love it because you're not just providing that value to those that are online, but those that are in person. So everybody's getting the same value. I think the experience may be a little bit different, but I think that if you work at making the experience as good as you can online, I think that it's still a good opportunity for people to attend and they still get the same type value.
Yeah. I agree with you with that. And I look at the experience that we can create. You said that the experience between in-person and online would be different, and that's going to happen. But what I think people can do is they can look at the ways that they can increase that experience, maybe with like a virtual goodie bag and, different things. What I love and what I want to get into with you about is how you can make money with these things, right? So with an online, like a hybrid online and in-person experience, don't you think that you could actually potentially even make more money? So you could have people who are diehards who are going to show up in person. And then the people who are like, I could never make it, but now that it's online, I can sit at I could sit at home or I can sit at work and I can participate. Right. So, I mean, a lot of the events. Yeah. So like, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the different ways that you would sort of like, as a strategist, see that you could add more, I guess just more financial benefit to being able to do it that way.
First of all, you're obviously going to make more money, right? You're going to generate more revenue because now it's not just about the in-person, but there's now another revenue stream of the online, right? The biggest thing is that you've got to market it. You've got to be able to market it. What I've been pushing a lot lately is I'm seeing a lot of entrepreneurs are hosting their own awareness events, right? Because they're trying to bring awareness around their brand, their services, their products, whatever it is that they're providing, right, to their clients. But you've got to have a strategy behind it. So the pre-planning is the most important, right? The promoting and the marketing, right? Use your social media. It's free. Ads are really good, depending on your target. And I think that hashtags, people don't understand the importance of using hashtags. That's a strategy in and of itself. Using your hashtags, because the hashtags, when you do your research on your hashtags and your social media, that just increases the number or the target audience that you can reach, right? So that's a broader audience reach for you. So that's an opportunity for you to generate more revenue. And then also providing as much value as possible, But you've also got to showcase your expertise, right? So people were like, hey, you want people to come in, you're promoting and you're marketing it. But another strategy is people have got to see what it is that you do.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to see where you've done planned events in the past, or, you've done an event for someone else, or what you're talking about. You're creating reels and things of that nature. So those are all great strategies that are going to help you generate more revenue.
Okay.
Just like I said, the in-person and the online, that's another in revenue generator in of itself. So that's a double whammy for you.
I think so. And what I feel like I started this episode off a little backwards, and I kind of want to not, put it into rewind, but I almost want to pause for a second and think about, because you said something that triggered sort of a thought in me, which is the whole planning thing. So when we plan events, the most important part for me is the planning stage. It's what makes it all work. Like if you spend, some of these events that I work on, I spend 6, 7, 8 months planning. And then when they run flawlessly, right? Like that's the whole goal.
Right.
And it's like 3 days, and it's, it's a ton of stress. It's a ton of work, but the results can be massive. So let's talk about like the structure that you love that makes really great results for in-person. Talk to me about the planning stage. Talk to me about like what you think is essential in that planning stage that people do to make a successful event. And then how do you talk to people about the financials? What do you say is, the best situation for making revenue off of an online event or an in-person event?
Okay. So I'd say in the planning piece, so let's talk about that first. So in the planning piece, it's extremely important that you know what your goals and objectives are. You're clear on that, like crystal clear on your goals and objectives, right? And then the next thing is that you've got to be clear on your target audience, because we've got a lot of coaches and entrepreneurs, and that's my target audience. So that's why I'm talking about them a lot.
Yeah.
But you've got a lot of coaches and entrepreneurs who are now hosting their own events that aren't planners per se.
Correct.
But what I'm trying to get them to understand is that the planning piece is the most important, because if you're clear on your goals and objectives, you're clear on your target audience, you're going to win, right? But then you've got to know the value. What is the value you're going to be adding? And then you've got to figure out a way to engage and interact with them, right? Not just before the event, but during the event. Remember, we talked about experience. For me, that's a no-brainer. So those things are extremely important. I also think that your agenda alignment or your run of show is extremely important. It matters like who's going to speak first. It matters when they're going to go on, right?
Yes.
So I went to an event last year and they had a couple of different speakers. So they had somebody that came in and they just kind of wowed the crowd, get everybody engaged.
Yeah.
And the information kept us engaged throughout. But then they had someone at the end that they were doing sales to. And this will kind of move into the financial piece. They had someone called the closer, right?
There's always a fluffer and there's always a closer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so he comes in and he's like very, very well known. People pay thousands. I'm talking about thousands of dollars to get him to come in as a speaker. I think he charges like $150K, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But he comes in and he's like the closer, right? So what I tell people, I say this to people, is that if it's not your ministry, don't do it. Right. And let me explain what I mean when I say that. I'm not a salesperson. I'm an event planner. I'm an event strategist. I'm not going to try and close the deal. Now, I can close on my own offers, but if I've got a conference with over 300 or 400 people, or even less than that, I'm going to bring somebody in that can close the deal for me, that has done sales for years, that knows how to have a conversation, that is confident in that area, and that can cleose the deal for me. Right. So I think that's a given. And then if we go into the financial piece, you're wanting to know, let me just reconfirm. You're wanting to know how you can make money at your events?
Yeah, so there's absolutely, because there's a lot of people who want to host an online, like an in-person event. They want to have the conference, right? They want to get on the stage and do the thing. I'm actually speaking at one. It's a smaller one, I'm speaking in January or whatever, but the thing is that a lot of people don't have the right financial plan afterwards, right? So is it a $10,000 course? Is it a $35,000 mastermind? Is it, how are we getting a good ROI? Because events cost money to put on.
Absolutely.
So in your, in your
Absolutely.
strategist brain, what are you telling clients to make sure that they're actually going to get an ROI?
Well, for one, you have to know the room. So depending on who your target audience is, you've got to know what people are going to purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you've got high ticket clients in there, you don't want to make an offer for $300. I mean, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's not a high ticket
I love
client,
doing
right?
I love doing Goldilocks. I love doing a Goldilocks
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? So I'll have
Mm-hmm.
this style of offer for these people. I'll make like a
Right.
special offer for the people who are sitting online, right? And then,
Yeah.
the people in the room, like obviously you don't want to have too many offers, obviously, because then people don't make a decision. But not everybody can do
Right.
the 10K down, $35,000 mastermind stuff. But reading the
That
room, like,
part.
yeah, you're
That part.
100%. Read the room.
I absolutely agree with that. So what I usually do is I usually make two offers.
Okay.
And that's just me. And again, it may change over time. Right now, I'm only doing two offers.
Okay.
One of them, I usually add a bonus to that. If you sign up right away, you always want people to think like FOMO, fear of missing out, right?
Yeah.
So,
Don't
hey,
leave the room without.
sign up now.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you sign up today and you pay in full price, you get these things. But in addition to that, I'm offering a bunch of other things, right? That are full of value. And you always want to show what the real value is, because you're actually making that offer for less than what it really costs.
Totally.
Right. And then I also have another offer where it may not include the bonus. It's a lot cheaper, but then financing is also good. So I have something where you can make payments, but then I also have in my platform, my finance platform, I have options to where you can finance. So you always want to make sure that even if you have a room where it's just high ticket, or if you have a room where it's a mix of high ticket, maybe, low ticket, whatever, you want to make sure that you've done your planning and you're strategizing around your target audience who's in there, and then your offers, and making sure that you're clear on your offers.
Mm-hmm.
I think that selling books are really good. If you have a book, you're an author, those things are really good. So anything that you have, any services you provide, your offers are really great. Ebooks, any type of tangible products. Sometimes people, if you have a product that you're selling, sometimes people are speakers and things of that nature, and they sell t-shirts. So anything that you are offering, whether it's an offer, it's a book, those are all ways to generate revenue at your event. I love it. And I'm big on, when you're in an event, I'm big on my brand. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about you, but I like to wear my brand.
Oh, heck yeah. Like
when I'm
hoodie,
doing an event.
jersey, t-shirt, whatever. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you can dress a t-shirt up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
jean jacket, nice, yeah, absolutely. You can dress that up for sure. I went to an event, and I want to get your thoughts. I went to an event, and it was a 3-day, and they had basically like kiosks outside of the main area, and they had vendors. And this was an event for coaches and course creators and all that kind of stuff. So the vendors weren't like selling a tangible thing; they were selling a service. And
nice.
You had to pay $1,000 to get one of these quote unquote booths, which is basically like a flip up table with a tablecloth. But
Okay.
What do you think about having a sort of like, I don't know, almost like a bunch of kiosks outside of the main room? Is it worth it to sell that kind of stuff? Like, are you seeing that still work? This event that I'm talking about was a while ago. I haven't really seen it lately, but I'm wondering where is it too much and we're not actually making any money off this stuff? Where has it become not worth it?
Too much.
Yeah.
Right. I think that if it's an event for yourself, you're hosting your own event, or for your company or your organization, and you guys are looking to generate revenue at the event, listen, first and foremost, let me be clear. It's not always about money. I want to provide value to my attendees. That's the first and foremost for me. But in addition to that, I do have a business. So I have to remember that this is a business. This isn't a hobby, right?
No.
This is my lifestyle, right? So I think that it's important that if it's for you and you're hosting your own event, you've got to be careful, because if you've got other people out there that are selling something that that you don't have a part of, that you're partnering with them, but it's not your product or your service, it's probably going to take away from your event. So I think there are times when you do trade shows and things of that nature. A trade show is great for that.
Absolutely.
Right? Trade shows, networking events. But if it's my sales event, I'm not going to have a bunch of other people there. I'm trying to sell my own stuff. I'm trying to sell, I know my things are valuable. So I'm selling my book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm selling my t-shirts. I'm selling my offers. So when you have too many other people, it can take away from what you're trying to do as the host.
So what do you
or
see
your product or service?
Totally. When you're talking to a client, what are you seeing not working? Like, what are you telling a client? Like, no, don't do that because it doesn't work anymore. Or like, what are the things that people bring up and you're like, oh, hell no, we can't do that. I'd love to sort of hear those.
That's one of the things is that people want to, because I sometimes feel like people aren't that comfortable with being on stage or talking in front of people. But as an entrepreneur, you've got to get there, especially if you're providing a service. So I think that in time, it comes, you start to get a little bit more comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times people don't feel comfortable with selling their own products or offers and things of that nature. So they want to bring other people in. I'm all for it, as I've done it in the past. We talked about the closer, we talked about the opener and the closer, but you just have to be careful about that. So I've had people ask about that. I've had people want to bring other people in and sell like their own books and their own products, not theirs, whoever the host is, their things, but someone else's. So I think I tell people to stay away from that. Also, sometimes when they want to have too many speakers at the event, those are things that's like, no, because that can take away from the whole value. I know there's a ton of great speakers out here, but you've got to understand how to do the run of show and how your agenda should align with your goals and objectives and your target audience, right? So those are things are too many speakers, too many people coming in, selling things, or even bringing people into a specific event. I think that you've got to know the type of event that you're wanting to do. You've got to understand that type of event, and then your goal and objective in that. The goal and objective always has to be at top of mind, because if you get away from that, then you get away from hosting a really good or executing a really good event.
Totally. Those are really, those are really good points that I would bring up to somebody. Like, there's a point where having too many speakers, and this is the same for online events, it becomes like almost like a lost leader. Like, it actually starts to detract. You know what I mean? Because then
you lose money.
Totally. Because then the experience goes from being like, oh wow, this was really, really fun and everything, to like the one you were talking about from 8 till 6. I'd be going nuts. I'd be like, get me into the hotel pool, or I need a cocktail, something that would drive me insane.
It was, let me say this, the event was amazing. Yeah. But what I didn't like was, and this was something, I think I did a reel after like a couple of weeks after the event, but they had too many, and the speakers were like very, very well-known speakers. And these people are not cheap. No. Okay. Not cheap at all. I'm talking about like Grant Cardone. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Myron Golden. Do you know him?
Oh yeah.
Like,
these are like
these type of people.
Yeah, $100,000-$200,000 speakers. Yeah.
Exactly. And so these are the type of speakers that were at the event. And from what I understand is that they didn't really make any money. I think that the price was great. The VIP, all those, and that's also another way to make money too, is to help, is to provide VIP, right? Yeah. It's got to be a little different than what the general admission, but that's another way. Sorry, I forgot about that. But when you have too many people at the event, it takes away from it, and then it ends up being too long. And what happened was, at one point, one part of the day, like it was like 3:00 and we hadn't even broke for lunch yet. And you can't do that. You have people that may have like diabetic, or have like,
I just have hangry.
People have pre-existing conditions.
Yeah, mine's called hangry. It's not a pre-existing condition. It's just I get hungry.
Exactly. And so you have to, I think that's where the difference in the planner versus strategist is.
Right.
Because those are things that someone who is just focused on the logistics.
Yes.
It doesn't catch, versus what the event strategist is going to catch, because the event strategist is going to be actually looking at your agenda and honestly doing an audit on your agenda, saying, this is too heavy, right? You don't need all of this in the beginning, right? The first 4 hours, you just want to get somebody to come in and open. You want to provide some value. After lunch, you go to lunch. Maybe we do some breakout sessions after lunch, come back and do the last hour session and go home.
Yes.
Right.
And that last hour better be fun.
That's the difference between the exactly. Right. You got to make it to where people are still engaged and they want to come back the next day if it's something that's more than one day.
Absolutely. Because after lunch, I want a nap. Most people are sleepy after lunch. Right. So
yes,
you've got, and funny, the event that, the event that I'm speaking at coming up, I am the last person before lunch. Right. Really? Yeah. So I'm crafting my whole presentation over the fact that I'm the last person before lunch. Like, hey, I get it. You're hungry. Like, it's coming. It'll be here soon, right? Yep. And you're hungry, you're tired. So I'm going to like try and engage them and stuff like that. I'm going to try and make some jokes.
Yes.
Cause I'd be like, I was actually thinking of like coming on stage, maybe, you're eating something and going, you guys haven't eaten yet. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, okay.
That's great. They're going to be like, really? But that's good because you're engaging them because they're starting to get tired. Yeah. And some people like me, I'm like, you mentioned hangry. I get hangry.
Me too.
But what I started doing was, this is a great idea for those of you who go to conferences and things, bring snacks. I bring like grapes. Mm-hmm. I bring cherries. I bring trail mix, nuts, things of that nature, because a lot of times those things kind of help you keep your energy up. Like absolutely. Nuts and things, fruit, stuff like that will help you keep your energy up, especially if they kind of go too long and then you don't eat lunch. But like I said, that hadn't happened before, just that one day. But I was like, you can't do that. You can't go until 3 o'clock and not break for lunch. No. You have people who are diabetic or have pre-existing conditions that have to eat at certain times. So, or eat, periodically throughout the day. So you don't want anybody to get sick. So
snacks are good, except if they're wrapped in some sort of cellophane noise producing. Right. I went to a conference in Florida back like ages ago, 2016, and the person in front of us was sitting with her boyfriend, and she had her backpack, and she was in her backpack, and she's rooting through her backpack, and I'm listening to the speaker, and she's rooting, and then she's opening zippers and clothing zippers, and then came the cellophane, like it was I think it was protein bars or something, and she's ripping. Oh no, it was like not Lee Valley. What is it? Valley, like those green bars?
Nature Valley.
Nature Valley. So she's ripping open Nature Valley, bars, and you're hearing the rip, right? And it was, the person I was with, we were looking at each other going, I am going to jump the table in a minute. Like, shut up, right? I couldn't hear the speaker at all. And other people were looking around. It was just, not a good thing.
Here's the secret. Take your snacks and put them in little plastic bags, like the little
Ziplocs,
either like the recyclable bags or Ziploc bags. Mm-hmm. Ziplocs are super easy. They're not all loud like the cellophane.
Yeah, they're pretty quiet.
That's what I do. I just pour my trail mix in there, and then they have the little minis.
Yep.
Little mini Ziploc bags.
Yeah, little snack
just
size.
Pour your snacks in there. You can just open it real quick and just snack and keep it moving.
Absolutely. So. Quiet water bottles, like
right.
Quiet snacks. So yeah, exactly. Right. So for those on video, she's showing us her water bottle. So yeah, I love that. And I think creating the experience, and I want to talk to you about the experience that we can create, right? So there's got to be things that we can do that keep it interesting. Everybody knows there's going to be a keynote. Everybody knows there's going to be like a couple of talks. Everybody knows there might be breakout sessions. What cool things can you insert that people find interesting or fun or different and work? Because sometimes they fall flat. Okay. Like, a trust fall is not going to work anymore. So what can we do? Again, I went to a conference in, was it 2013? And they did a freaking trust fall. I was like, I stood there with my arms crossed going, I'm not doing this. So what can we do that makes it more fun? Because that kind of seared my brain. Go ahead.
Oh my God, the trust fall. I'm looking at that because we've done that in the past some years ago. And I'm like, I don't even see that anymore. But I think that one of the things I think is really good, and it is not just a value to you, but also to your attendees, is networking sessions are great.
Same.
Because when
Yeah.
you're in these events all day, you don't get an opportunity unless it's like lunch break or a 15-minute, restroom break or whatever. You don't get a lot of time to talk and network with other people. And I can't tell you how many events I've been to where I've networked with people and I've worked with people. Like I was able to provide a service to them. They were able to provide a service to me, but you don't know when you don't get an opportunity to talk to people. So I think networking sessions are great.
Yeah.
I think that doing something VIP, right? Offering that VIP is really good because it kind of sets people apart, and people always feel like people start talking about like, hey, we did this in VIP. Yesterday the VIP came in a day early and we did this and we did that. I think those are great things to incorporate because people feel like they were left out.
I like the VIPs.
The next time you have an event.
I was going to say, I like the VIPs showing something physically that they're VIPs, because then you create more like then you have a bit of the FOMO. So you have like either one of those like badges, some VIPs like give them a t-shirt and have them at like whatever, but something to make them stand out. So people like, oh, absolutely, you're a VIP. Damn,
they feel like they left out. Right. So we went to an event last year, and because he was my mentor, we didn't have to pay. He was like, my mentees, you guys don't have to pay. And we didn't realize that when we got to the event that we were VIPs. So we got to sit at tables. They set tables up for the VIPs. We got different lanyards. We got journals. We got cups and a couple of other things. And my sister was there at the event, and she was like, I'm just going to go back here with the the rest of the pilgrims.
Yep, just back here. Yep, sitting on my chair.
Right, just back here, right? It was so funny because she was just like, yeah, nice. It was like, we just got a chair, but it was nice because we sat at a table. It was easy to take notes. We got our journal. We got a pen. We got a cup, a t-shirt. So those are great things because people feel like they were like, oh, man, next time I'm going to sign up for VIP. That's another way to create an experience. So the VIP experience, the networking sessions, I think games or engagement is really good. I actually like, for me, I really like panel discussions. Yeah, I think panel discussions are good because you get a different perspective from, the subject matter experts on the panel, right? So I love panel discussions. I think those are great. So those are just different experiences. Breakout sessions are great as well, but I think that you've got to kind of switch it up a little bit with your breakout sessions. I do like breakout sessions because they're more intimate. And sometimes you have people like, if this is a huge conference, people don't always feel comfortable with getting up, asking a question in front of 1,000 people, right? No. But your breakout sessions, especially if you have a lot of them, it's a lot less people in there, a little bit more intimate. So sometimes people feel a little bit more comfortable. And that might be an experience for some people in of its own. But I think that you sometimes have to think outside of the box for the breakout sessions too. I think that the content in the breakout sessions can be an experience as well.
Yes. So. Absolutely. I was at an event recently and they had a health coach come in, and this person ran a whole like stretching exercise thing right before lunch. Right. It was the last thing before lunch. So we all did like stretching and, we were and breathing exercises and everything that you could do like at your chair or whatever. And that was really, really good because you kind of like, got to roll your shoulders and move around a bit because you've been sitting in a chair for, 3 hours.
Half the day.
Yeah, right. Quietly. And then, you're in there and you're like, when is lunch? When's lunch going to... I sound obsessive about food. I'm really not. But like the timing of anything is just so key. And the other thing is going so late. I find that is absolutely horrible. With online events, because I do a lot of those, which is why I so wanted to talk to you today. With the online events, I think that people overpack them with not only just the speakers, but what we call, so 2 years ago, I created in online events, I created this thing called live experiences. And I launched it first in my own summit, and then I launched it for clients. And live experiences was a way to create engagement so that people weren't just listening to a pre-recorded interview and then not showing up. Like they were just signing up for the summit, not participating. You never saw them in the Facebook group. You never connected with anybody. So I created live experiences that included networking. And then, if you had an event where somebody could come in and do like an example, like a yoga session, or come in and do some sort of like, I don't know, some like I had a client that did a a financial thing where they came in and they actually worked through how you could get your like seed round financing, like how to write your proposal, which was cool, right? So these different kinds of experiences. But the problem was I had one client that was like gung ho, and they put in something like 18 or 20 live experiences in a 4-day event. And we're still in the planning stage, and I get on a call with the team because I project manage with their teams. Get on a call with the team. It's me and 6 individuals. And this person's like, yeah, I've got like 19 live experiences. And I'm like, no, you have 19 dead weights. None of this is going to work. Like, nobody's going to show up for 19 live experiences.
At all.
And you're going to have like 2 or 3 people in each one. And then what's going to happen is your speakers are going to feel like crap because they're spending an hour of their time and nobody's there.
Yep. And nobody is there, or those that are there are not going to be engaged at all.
Heck no. So they went, so they said, no, it's going to work. It's going to work. I have a really engaged audience. You don't know. And I'm like, okay, I do know. And when this does not go well, I've told you thusly, but I will support you through this because that's my job. And lo and behold, we had, a good show up for the first 2 or 3. We had a couple for the next day, whatever. But then it went flat. Like, you had either 1 or 2 people or no people show up on these live events. It was absolutely horrible for the host because they got super frustrated and they felt really embarrassed that these people were putting in time, effort, money, not even money, but like time and effort to do these live experiences, and nobody was showing up. So there's a balance. There's a balance that you need to create. You know this, I know this. And that's where a strategist over just a planner is going to be essential for creating a really successful online event.
Absolutely. And I think that we sometimes, because we're not planners, right? Those of us that are hosting the awareness events, our coaches and entrepreneurs, because we're not planners, we're just thinking about the logistics. And what I tell people is that now don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the logistics is easy, because it's not, right? No. Booking the space and getting the caterers and decor and all that good stuff. That's all. It can be complex, but you make it harder when you don't plan out your event, or when you don't strategize. I'll say that. I call it the plan before the planning, is what I like to call it. The plan before the planning. So when you don't strategize and you don't have a strategy and you don't know your audience and you're not familiar with your target audience and you don't know what your goals and objectives are, what do you want your audience to leave with? You've got to be 100% clear on that, crystal clear. Why are you doing this? Okay, if it's a sales event, okay, you want to make money, but in the process of wanting to make money and generate revenue, you've got to be providing value. Like, on top of what you've already told them they're going to get, you want to go above and beyond, is what I try to get people to understand too. Always bring it, okay? I'm talking about you're giving what you're saying you're going to give, even more, right? Always pack even more. If you're the speaker, you're going to talk about what you and the host, what you want to talk about, or what the host would like for you to convey to the audience, but you still want to give even extra, so you want people to leave thinking like, man, I can't wait to get back to, tomorrow, or I can't wait until she has, or he has another event. So I think that if we can just get people to understand the importance of the planning piece first, the logistics are going to fall in place. Like you just said, when you spend all those months, 4, 5, 6 months on planning, then now your event's going to go seamless. And what I try to get people to understand too is that when you plan, it gives you more time to be creative.
Absolutely.
Right? You get more bang for your buck, right? You can probably get like a better price on the venue.
Totally.
I tell people to think about off-peak versus peak season. Why would you want to plan something during like wedding season or graduation season, or they're going to kill you on the price?
Yeah, you're going to pay double for that room, at least.
Double for the room, right?
At least.
But when you have time to plan, you have time to think about like, hey, let me find out when their off-peak season is. Let me see what the price is versus peak versus off-peak. Let me figure out how I can be a little bit more creative. Let me brainstorm some experiences that I can provide or implement into this event when you plan. So if I can get, that's where I'm kind of trying to bridge the gap right now, is that's the difference between the planner and the strategist.
Yes.
But with me, you get both. So.
Magic. Yeah. So you get both together. Right. Poof. I love that. I do a lot of the planning and the strategy. I love the strategy piece. And then I love it. I can live in that. I've got templates for days.
Me too.
Oh, and I'm like having conversations. And don't you just have these conversations with the client and you're like, oh, and then you could do this, and then you can do this.
You start going down this rabbit hole of things that you can do.
Oh, yep. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. And then you're like, oh crap, now I've got to execute on that. How are we going to make that happen? Right. But then you look like the superstar because you've done something completely different or super cool. Right. I love the idea. Like you were like a drone. I'm like, oh my gosh. Right. How would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? How would it look? But it's great footage.
I've seen it though, mainly at like concerts and things of that nature. Like when somebody hosts a concert or that type of event, it's good for that, because anybody that's online, you've got your hybrid.
Yeah.
They're going to get a really good experience. It's almost like they're there because the drone can kind of zoom in on the artist and on the crowd, and then they get an aerial view, and then they can kind of get down on the ground, so that's why people usually use it for that, to provide that online, more like an online experience.
Because if not, you've got a static camera at the back of the room, and you're looking at a person that's like yay big, like the size of a Lego figure on a stage, right? And you're trying to like enjoy it.
Absolutely.
That creates a bit more of an immersive experience. Okay. I've got one more question for you, and then unfortunately we have to wrap. Although, I mean, we could keep going and going and going, and
we could.
The problem of talking to somebody that you share so much with. So what kind of size of a conference do you love to strategize and plan? Do you like the minis? Do you like the mids? Do you like the big massives? Or what do you love?
I would say the mini and the mids, or mini and mid would be my preference. If I had my preference, right, they would be, only because it is a lot and you've got to manage a lot of people. It's not just, you can't do it yourself when you're doing a huge conference of like thousands of people. You've got to have a team. You got to have a team of, your event decor. You've got a team of, your food. You've got your AV, all of those things. And so you're not only managing the event, you've now got to manage all of these different teams. And so it can be very, very complex. So if I had my preference, I'd say the small and the mini, the meaties.
I like the minis and the mids, but I have to tell you, I love throwing in one gargantuan, multi-faceted. Oh God, yeah. The AGMs that I used to run for Fortune 500 companies back in the day. This is like previous life. It feels like the AGMs we had. One of the companies had a threat. There was a person that had an active lawsuit against the company, and they were very contentious. They were like showing up at the building and making threats, and had to be removed by police and stuff. And so there was a restraining order, but we knew this person was going to show up. So not only did I have to manage the AGM and all the stuff like the food and the AV and the mics and all this different kind of stuff, but I also had to handle a security team, both plain clothes and in uniform. So and I it was my responsibility. So I had, how you have like an earpiece? So I had my earpiece for my event side, and then I had a security earpiece. And I'm like, oh yeah. And, I was getting updates like, we had guys doing rounds outside. We had, event perimeters clear, check at 11:15, event perimeter, and they were doing internal checks, like bathroom checks and stuff. And just to make sure that this person would show up, because there was a threat, like they were thinking this person was going to show up and do some stuff. So I love the minis and the mids, but I also like the technicalities associated with the big events. Like even charity golf tournaments are massive. You
Oh
know?
my gosh. I haven't done charity, but we did a
Oh,
partnership one time at a company I was working with, and it
so fun.
was a lot of planning. We had a great time.
Oh, yeah.
Once everybody got out on the green, it was smooth
Yeah,
sailing from there. It was
absolutely.
just getting everybody checked in,
Hmm.
and we were what I liked about it was we did a partnership, and so we had some partners that purchased like um a sign on the hole. You know, they would have
Hmm.
like two or three signs with their logos on the hole. Some people um sponsored lunches,
Yeah.
sponsored mulligans. It
Yes.
was a lot.
Yes.
It
Yep.
was a lot.
Absolutely. We
But
had,
I loved it. I
me
loved it.
too. We had like BMW sponsored a hole in one. So we had a car, right? So we
Uh-huh.
had a car on one of the holes. We had, there's an airline here in Canada
Nice.
called Air Canada. So we had a sponsorship with
Mhm.
Air Canada. So we had it called like
Nice.
Fly the Runway. And we had like this whole runway set up where it looked like an actual runway. It was really, really cool. And then, there's all the fun stuff. And I know we're going totally off topic, but it's a good,
No, I
it's so
love
much
it. I
fun.
love it. And I know you guys had sponsorships for that.
Oh,
That was an expensive event. It
yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like.
The last one that we did, the cost was about $250,000
Yeah.
for to host the event, but we were able to get more than that in sponsorships,
Nice. I love
right?
it.
And we used all the company paid for the event, and the sponsorships went all to charity.
Nice. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So it was really, really good. We were actually able to raise more than that, like over $300,000 or something for this charity, which was awesome.
Oh, great.
And that was fabulous.
Great.
And we had like Olympians on each. We had Olympians in certain teams, right? So we
Are
actually
you
hired.
serious?
Yeah, you can hire. Did you know you can hire an Olympian to be a golfer for your one of your groupings?
No,
Yes.
that I didn't know.
Yep.
I got my notepad here.
Right. We had NHL hockey
Uh-huh.
players as part of groups. So it's like, hey, if you want to pay an extra $5,000, you can play golf with Wendell Clark, who was the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs here in Toronto. So you can you can play with your favorite NBA basketball star or your favorite whatever.
Mhm.
You can do that. You got to pay the money, obviously.
Right.
But we can hire people like that. There's a whole agency out there that does that kind of stuff. We went through and we had like multiple people, and people paid extra money to play with their favorite hockey player or Olympian or anything like that. And that was how we got the money. We raised that much money. It was a really cool idea. So
Nice.
anyways, having said
sounds
that,
so awesome.
it was so much fun. How can people who are interested in maybe hosting their own in-person event find you and get in touch with you? Because I think it would be amazing for them to have that conversation.
Yes. So I am on Instagram at Karrington War. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Karrington Warfield. And then I'm also on Facebook at Karrington Warfield. My Facebook is usually I still post like my event planning and strategy, things of that nature, but it's more like family, old high school friends. But my Instagram, I use that the most, in LinkedIn. Those are the two. So you can send me a message on either of those. And then we can kind of talk and maybe schedule a free consult. I do free consultations on on strategy, or if you want the planning services, or if you need both. So I do those, and then I can send you my Calendly, and we can go from there and schedule some time.
Amazing. Fantastic. Thanks for being so candid and sharing so much about what you do. Planner, strategist and planner to strategist and planner. It was great to sort of break things down and have a really sort of open conversation about that. Thanks for being in that spirit of collaboration versus competition.
Thank you, Jenny. This has been awesome. And like I said, I love our conversations. Every time we talk, we just kind of just keep going. I love having a conversation with you. I love it because we do the same thing, sort of. Yeah. So we just have a lot in common. And so I feel like we have a really good vibes. And I love it. I thank you so much for allowing me on your platform and to share with your audience.
Absolutely. It was so much fun. Like I said, and like you said, I mean, we could just keep going. So that's why we've had the record button going this whole time, because I didn't want to miss anything. But we will wrap. And if you want to get in touch with Karrington, all of her touch points are going to be in the show notes. So you can go and check that out as well. And make sure that you follow her on her social platforms, just like me. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. That's where I play the most. And as always, the Acquire podcast is produced and edited by Jason Wheeler. And if you found this episode to be of value, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, getting in touch and letting me know what you think or what you'd love to hear more of. And I really appreciate you being part of my growing community. So if you want to, please do consider joining my Facebook group or following me on my social channels so we can stay in touch. And I love being able to bring you more information about lead gen, list building, and event planning. Thanks so much. The Acquire Podcast is brought to you by the Auphonic Podcast Network, and we'll see you soon.